From the Art Bar at Ix Art Park in Charlottesville, Virginia, I'm Jovina. This is the Daily Creature, and owls well that ends well. And of course, we're just beginning, but yes, folks, friends, the bird is getting its due today on the Daily Creature with this guy, the owl. Specifically here, we have a snowy owl, and of course, not a real snowy owl. This one's on loan from the Henry Vina collection. And this snowy owl, he has no name. He is a nameless snowy owl. Ask yourselves this, better yet, ask a scientist. Go do some research. Why are snowy owls seen so far south these days? It's a northern creature up in Canada and the northern parts of the US, but more and more the snowy owl is coming down south. Why? Why? I don't know. Friends, grab a pencil, grab some paper. Let's get species specific with some sketching now.
Sketchy eastern screech owl in a little ruled notebook. And we'll work with a reference for this delightful North American bird. That is your eastern screech owl, a short, stocky bird. You will note the ears. That's what they call those tufted feathers there. The eastern screech owl inhabits urban and rural areas. All he or she needs is trees. They love the trees. They do not hang out in flatlands or areas without trees. So there you have it. Before we jump into our sketchy eastern screech owl, however, let's do a quick fun fact. And I say fun fact as a question because is it a fun fact? I don't know. But I've drawn you a close-up of what I think one of these might look like. And we'll talk about that in 1 second. But let me start by saying owls swallow their food whole. This guy swallows her food whole, which means all those undigestible bits, hair, bones, stuff like that must be coughed up. So the owl coughs up something called an owl pellet. And this is my close-up drawing of an owl pellet here, but it's much larger than an actual owl pellet would be. But in the owl pellet, you get the hair, the feathers, the bones. One book described it, the mouse skulls, because owls do often eat mice. So that's my idea for what an owl pellet might look like. Is it a fun fact? That's why I say again, fun fact? I don't know. It's not that much fun. It's a little bit gross, but it's definitely awesome. So friends, as mentioned, we will sketch our eastern screech owl on a ruled notebook, because this may be all you have. It's one of those days. You just have some lined paper, but we will have the luxury of a reference. We'll keep it present in this video the whole time. And we'll talk about the shapes, as we often do when we're sketching. And I'm noting on my lovely eastern screech owl reference that we've got a kind of an ovalish head here, and we've got something of an ovalish body too. Ovals, ovals, ovals. And our owl here seems to be perched on a glove that looks like a domestic owl of some kind, or maybe a zoo owl from this reference photo I have. We'll create those claws here, those talons, which are sort of little ovals in and of themselves. And we'll put a bit of a hint of a branch in instead. We won't go for the gloved hand. And maybe I'll just pop a few lines down there because I don't see a tail in this reference, but I'm fairly sure that the tail feathers would hang just below the branch that way. And I'm going to just hint toward the wings as well. And then we're going to go in, and I really, well, before I get to those eyes, I think I'll kind of create those tufts, right? Again, ovalish. As always, friendos, I sketch lightly with the pencil. I don't go too hard yet. I will once I get to the darkening of the eyes and probably some of these details. I'll press harder with my pencil point. For now, keeping it light, and I'm adding these eyes, circles, big circles, and then kind of right there in the middle is that weird little beak. The owl has the kind of short, you barely see the beak in so many owls. And this eastern screech owl is no different. I can't resist it now. I'm going to hit the harder side of that pencil point, and I'm going to go in and do the pupils of the owl. The eyes on any creature obviously are so important, windows of the soul, but on the owl, those eyes are hugely important. And they're hugely huge, often because the owl, being, as mentioned, nocturnal, she needs to see in the dark to hunt the little mousies and the bunnies and the things the owl hunts for. I'm going in now and hitting a kind of a harder line around my owl and creating that sort of feathery look. And, as always with a quick sketch, I'm already starting to look for something of an exit strategy, mostly because we're going to move on to new projects and such. I recommend that you, artist, you sketch longer than I do. But I'm starting to hit, as I said, the harder end, pushing a little harder to create these details. And I'm going to go in and draw some claws into the toes of my owl. As I can see, these pretty sharp claws there. Claws are talons. And further detail and even shading down at the bottom of the owl where we would see less. And I'll really bring that branch into being. And maybe some details for the branch too, some little knots in the wood, etc. And I'll go ahead and darken these feather lines back here as well. Keep that pretty simple, but yeah, I think that will work. And essentially all I want to do now is hit the head with some details. And the owl often, you note that kind of heavy brow gives it that wise look, that discerning, almost judgmental. Don't judge me, owl. Harder lines for these eyes. And then again, feather details. When you're working with birds, you can just get lost in the feathers. I recommend that you do. It's such a lovely aspect of these winged creatures, our feathered friends. They're feathers. And for the illustrator who likes detail, well, you can go and go and go some more. And at that, my feathered friends, I think we might just call it a Screech Owl sketch, an Eastern Screech Owl sketch. And again, look at this guy. We could go and go, continuing to sort of add in the details that we see. I will darken the beak. Oh, and I'm going to get those nostrils too. So I wasn't quite finished. When you say you're finished, sometimes it's great to stop and say, am I finished? Ask yourself that question. But I think at this point, I am finished. No, there's one more thing I'd like to do. Let's see if I have any bright colors handy. I do. So friends, I told a tiny white lie when I said all you would need is the ruled paper and the pencil. An orange marker, a yellow marker. Speaking of those eyes, why not really just go in and typically, if you're careful to avoid coloring with your marker too much on any solid pencil bits, you shouldn't get any pencil on your marker. You want to keep your markers clean. By rights, I probably should have gone and erased where I was going to draw with my marker, but that's okay. Get a little bit of a brighter color for those eyes. That's a fun thing to do. Could you color the rest of it? Absolutely. Should you? Maybe. I don't know. That's your choice. But does that work? Just kind of the eyes and the pencil drawing? I like it. I like it. And that's owl for that.
Oh, hi. Going through some of this regular, everyday sort of stuff that we get rid of. It's cardboard storage for bottles, for shipping bottles and glassware. It's, of course, big milk jug, an orange juice jug, technically. It's made of plastic. Here's a smaller one that used to house grapefruit juice, also plastic. Could we get an owl out of this thing somehow? Take a look. Can you envision an owl? What would be your next steps in turning this old grapefruit juice container into an owl? I'd love to know. I would do it. I would follow those steps. Yes, I would. But along these lines, let me ask you this little question. You know those food pouches? Friends, I'm always telling you, grab stuff from around the house to work with. So that brings me to this question here. You know those food pouches? The food pouches I'm talking about, the soft, sort of yogurty things, fruity things. We're not going to give a shout out to any particular brand of food pouch. I'm not here to support big baby food. All respect to them. These food pouches tend to have really wonderful caps. I love these caps. So that's what got me started thinking about the caps to these food pouches and how they might be used in an art project. I really like them. So I saved a few. And with a few other little bits from around the house, we're going to make some super fast owls, friends. So I've got a few of these food pouch caps. And I'm just going to tell you right away, my mind goes immediately to eyes. And eyes on an owl, as I believe we said before, are so important. I have a couple of other little things here as well. Tiny shell and the end of a zip tie. Had a bunch of these zip ties and I just simply snipped the end of one of them off. And I have a little circle of cardboard, and then I have this delightful lid that I wasn't using for anything as well. And friends, again, this is a quick one and a simple one. I'll make two quick little owls right here. I think I'll take the red caps and I'll pop them on there. And it's really something how the right pieces just work. And look at that. Instant snowy owl, kind of fun. Is it super realistic? No, it's highly stylized. But with some glue or some tape, you can stick those pieces on. We're not even going to go that deep. I'm going to add these eyes here to this guy. Got different colored eyes. And then I'll use the teeny tiny shell. I'm going to just try and set it right. Trying to get that beak on there, that owl beak, little tiny owl beak. Bring these guys just a little bit up this way. And again, you can go in there with the glue, with the tape. You could add feathers around the sides of the eyes using paper. You could build out a whole body for your owl, maybe even use a food pouch, right? Interesting, possibly, maybe, who knows? Friends, again, what do you have sitting around the house? Can you make your owls from something sitting around the house? And really, do seek out, if you happen to be food pouch people, those caps. Oh, so much plastic. But hey, at least we can do something constructive with it. Friends, enjoy it. Have fun with it. Please be resourceful. I'll read you a story, if you don't mind. Owl at Home is the name of this group of stories, written by Arnold Lobel, who brought us all of those fantastic frog and toad stories, and another wonderful book, one of my favorites, called Grasshopper on the Road. But now we focus upon Owl at Home. Something I love about the owl character in Arnold Lobel's owl stories is that he is not your typical, very, very wise, pompous, professorial sort of owl. He's, we'll call him charmingly simple in the way that he deals with the issues that come up in these stories. And we're actually going to focus on the final tale in this book, and it's called Owl in the Moon. One night, Owl went down to the seashore. He sat on a large rock and looked out at the waves. Everything was dark. Then a small tip of the moon came up over the edge of the sea. Owl watched the moon. It climbed higher and higher into the sky.
Soon the whole round moon was shining. Owl sat on the rock and looked up at the moon for a long time. If I am looking at you, moon, then you must be looking back at me. We must be very good friends. The moon did not answer, but Owl said, I will come back and see you again, moon. But now I must go home. Owl walked down the path. He looked up at the sky. The moon was still there. It was following him. No, no, moon, said Owl. It is kind of you to light my way, but you must stay up over the sea where you look so fine. Owl walked a little further. He looked at the sky again. There was the moon, coming right along with him. Dear moon, said Owl, you really must not come home with me. My house is small, you would not fit through the door, and I have nothing to give you for supper. Owl kept on walking. The moon sailed after him over the tops of trees. Moon, said Owl, I think that you do not hear me. Owl climbed to the top of a hill. He shouted as loudly as he could. Goodbye, moon. The moon went behind some clouds. Owl looked and looked. The moon was gone. It is always a little sad to say goodbye to a friend, said Owl. Owl came home. He put on his pajamas and went to bed. The room was very dark. Owl was still feeling sad. All at once, Owl's bedroom was filled with silver light. Owl looked out of the window. The moon was coming from behind the clouds. Moon, you have followed me all the way home. What a good, round friend you are, said Owl. Then Owl put his head on the pillow, closed his eyes. The moon was shining down through the window. Owl did not feel sad at all. And there you are again.
Artists and creative ones, I cannot recommend enough that you get yourself some Arnold Lobel. Read the rest of Owl at home. Put your hands on some Frog and Toad. I know it's not right to plug Frog and Toad during an Owl program, but there you are. That's just how good Frog and Toad is. Arnold Lobel also wrote the wonderful Mouse Soup and Mouse Tales, as well as Grasshopper on the Road. All wonderful stories. Get your hands on them. Friends, the owl is nocturnal. This means she hunts at night. She does her thing at night. She sleeps in the day. Think about it. When you're drifting off to sleep tonight, hopefully after listening to some wonderful stories by Arnold Lobel, when you're drifting off to sleep, that owl, she's just getting started, scanning the area with those sharp, beautiful yellow eyes, looking for mousies, getting ready to swoop in, eat them whole, and cough up owl pellets. It's true. It's true. Friends, from the Art Bar at Ix Art Park in Charlottesville, Virginia, I'm Jovina. This is your Daily Creature. Day or night, stay creative.